Single phasing, both a destructor and useful feature for a variable frequency drive, and we'll explain as we go forward in this presentation. So what we have here is an older series N3 drive, Teco-Westinghouse N3 drive, that's clearly seen better days, a victim of single phasing. And usually the drive looks far worse than this when it's single phased. So when you lose one leg of the three-phase power, what happens is the amp draw, in order to power whatever horsepower the motor is, the amp draw comes close to doubling. If we look at this three-phase chart here, using a 10 horsepower example, at 230 single phase, the motor amp draw is roughly 50 amps, whereas a normal three-phase 10 horsepower motor will draw 28. So what happens is the VFD just simply can't handle the excessive amp draw, and the internal components basically heat up, and the drive effectively melts. But not to fear, all the F510 and the E510 series from Teco come with phase loss protection. The only issue is this feature actually comes disabled on the drive. Now, the factory has a reason for doing this. Essentially, it involves the need to power the VFD with single-phase electricity. Some parts of the country don't have three-phase readily available. These areas still have uses for variable frequency drives. For example, locations in the southwest part of the country involving the oil and gas industries and irrigation as well. It's not unusual in these areas to single-phase 50, 75, even 100 horsepower motors or larger. Most of today's variable frequency drives are fully capable of taking a single-phase voltage input and producing a three-phase voltage output. However, to be able to handle the increased amp draw, the VFD should be rated for twice the horsepower of the motor. In other words, if you have a motor that is 10 horsepower at 230 volt three phase, and you want to bring 230 single phase into the drive, then your variable frequency drive would need to be rated for 20 horsepower. So in the instance where you're inputting single phase power to the drive and outputting three phase, if your phase loss protection is enabled, in this instance, you'll trip that safety every time. Now we could debate the factory's wisdom on this measure. One could argue that it might make more sense to have the phase loss protection enabled as a default, and in the odd circumstance where you're providing single phase power, disable the function. However, this is the way they chose to approach it, so definitely in a three-phase in, three-phase out application, you definitely want to enable that phase loss protection on the input and the output of the drive. Check back on this channel for more videos.